Peter Dutton has weighed in on the debate of who should lead the Reserve Bank through its next term. Let's go live to Sky News political reporter Joel Philp. Joel, the opposition leader's words hinted he has some concerns about the current crop of candidates that is being mooted as the shortlist.
Tom, over the last few days, we've seen Liberal figures, including Andrew Bragg and Jane Hume, say that they believe Philip Lowe should be reappointed as the RBA governor to continue and perhaps finish his fight against inflation. Today, we saw opposition leader Peter Dutton taking a slightly different approach, saying whoever is appointed to the role should be, quote, independent of government. And that is perhaps hinting that the current front runners for this role, that being Stephen Kennedy and Jenny Wilkinson, who are both the heads of the departments of Treasury and Finance, respectively, are not suitable because of their close relationship that they would have with the Treasurer. Here is what the opposition leader had to say.
We can't have a situation where the government is appointing somebody who is familiar to the government in the sense that they've worked very closely with ministers or with the Treasurer or with the Finance Minister. We can't have somebody who has been appointed by the Labor Party or indeed by the coalition to a senior position within government. It needs to be somebody who is independent, who has the best interests of the Australian public in mind.
All right, that's the marker he's laid down. We'll get the announcement soon enough. Meanwhile, we've had the big four banks giving evidence at this parliamentary committee this week. Interesting to note for all the talk of possible home loan stress, they're saying it's not too bad just yet, but there's another group really feeling the pinch.
Yeah, that's right, Tom. Look, at this parliamentary hearing, the banks are effectively saying we're taking a look at our customer accounts and analysing the health of the finances of Australians. And they have said that it's not too bad at this stage, that people are faring remarkably well given the circumstances of that rapid-fire rate hiking cycle we are in the midst of at the moment. But there is one group of particular concern. You might think it is people who are highly leveraged up, and that is a factor indeed if they're on home loans. But it's millennials and especially renters who are really struggling right now.
We would say that sort of the age band that we're seeing the greatest strain at the moment is between the ages of 30 and 34. You know, the least strain is between 60 and 74. You know, and then there's obviously dimensions within that. We see renters under more pressure actually than those with a mortgage, and of course those that own their own home outright, the least.
That's Matt Comyn, the CEO of Commonwealth Bank, who echoed the warning of other big banks and indeed the Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe that unless housing supply is increased in Australia, we are likely to see a surge in prices into the future, especially considering migration levels are expected to really increase over the next 2 years or so, putting increased pressure on prices. The government obviously has its Housing Australia Fund, which will go some way towards helping particular cohorts of the community. The opposition is pushing back against it and is not supporting it at this stage, saying this isn't going to fix the current crisis.
The only plan they have is for public and social housing. Sure, but how many of these migrants are going to live in public and social housing? I mean, the vast majority of Australians don't live in public and social housing. They buy their own home or they live in the private rental market. It's not going to make a difference for the vast majority of Australians.
We can't get that legislation through the Parliament because it's being blocked by the Greens and the Coalition. So they should heed the warnings of the NAB boss and the RBA boss and get on with passing this legislation so we can start building that housing.
And Tom, the Albanese government also has its Housing Accord, which is a plan to try to build, in conjunction with private industry, super funds and the states and territories, 1 million houses over a 5-year period in Australia. But that isn't on track at this stage, and there are some analysts who are saying that that won't be achieved considering interest rates have gone so high. Tom?